Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for having this important hearing today. It seems to me that one of the major issues that we face, maybe the signal issue that you've discussed today, is how are we going to give consumers real choice? How do we give them real choice to opt out of being tracked, to opt out of sharing their data, to control whom their data is shared with? How are we going to do that in a way that's not overly burdensome to the consumer, but it will actually work? And we also know that Google and Facebook, and I think it's important to get this on the record, are really different from almost everybody else. I mean, they are doing something different in this market. They're not using traditional advertising models. They track us every single day. I'll never forget having a Google representative sit right where you're sitting now and tell me that even if on the Android phone you turn off your location services, you turn off your Wi-Fi, you say you don't want to be tracked, the phone still tracks you. It tracks you hundreds of times a day, sends that information to Google, which they then use to build a profile, and this is when the consumer thinks that she has opted out. So that's why today I'm introducing legislation called the Do Not Track Act, and it's very simple. It just says that a consumer can make a one-time choice not to be tracked, not to have her data sent to these companies, and to stop them from then selling that data to other companies. If it sounds familiar, that's because it is. The FTC has endorsed this approach in the past, but it was voluntary, and of course, the major companies, the dominant platforms, ended up not agreeing to comply with it, so I think we should make it compulsory, and we should give it the force of law and give consumers real choice, stop the endless notices, do you consent, do you opt out, give them real choice, let them opt out one time, let them say this is what I want, and force the companies then to comply. By the way, under my bill, no discrimination against the people who opt out. No getting around their choice. You have to treat those consumers like every other consumer. This puts the ball in the consumer's court, gives them ownership over their own data, gives them the right to control it, which I think is hugely significant, and I hope that we'll see this legislation be able to go forward. I want to, in my time here, remaining time, I want to ask about the advertising model here, the business model that is driving so much of what you've been talking about today in these ad-based platforms. And I'm really curious about the actual benefit of this model to society, because what we're told is that everybody benefits from this model. It's beneficial to all parties. Companies get to buy cheaper ads and access specific segments of the population. Consumers get more relevant information. But I'm wondering if that's really true. Can I just, Professor Goldfarb, can I start with you? You said something earlier about it's important that companies have access to massive amounts of data in order to help them build better products. But like, what kind of products are we talking about here?
So with your Android phone, for example, it needs to know one reason that it's useful to know where you are is so that it can essentially provide you good service and find the appropriate cell tower. With your Google search results, those search results are better. They're more both targeted to you and better for everybody if Google can continually have information about what things people are clicking on, what search results are most useful to people at any given time in any given place.
You just said better for everybody. Who else besides the
everybody might be, but the people who are the searchers, the consumers. If you went back to Google, 20 years ago and tried to use it, which at the time seemed extraordinary, those results are a lot less useful. They're a lot worse than they are today. You often had to scroll through many pages till you found what you were looking for. It might not be there. By allowing Google to use consumer data on they clicked on this link and not that link, that enables Google to create a more effective search engine that gets the things in front of you that you want when you want them.
You mentioned products, though, and this is what I want to zero in on. It seems to me that most of the innovation here in this space is going on in the realm of advertising and getting more targeted ads that supposedly benefits consumers. My real question is that isn't this diverting investment away from these startup companies who are actually making better products, actual products, and instead trying to optimize ad targeting? I mean, does that really add anything to consumer welfare? Dr. Morton, do you want to comment on this?
Yeah, I feel like the lack of competition in this space leads to very high prices for these ads. As I mentioned earlier, also low prices for the content that pulls people online. That enormous wedge is not socially efficient because, as you say, it's causing platforms to invest a lot in this space and targeting ads rather than investment in, say, good content because the content was receiving a competitive price.
Right, and so we've got the content issue on the platforms themselves, and you alluded to the addictive and exploitative practices that these platforms increasingly seem to be using in order to get users' attention, which they need in order to make their business model work. But I'm also wondering about the startup companies who are trying to sell their products, their actual products to consumers, say a startup sock company that wants to sell online. It seems to me that what the data indicates is that more and more of these companies' investment go not into making better socks, but into making better ads, optimizing ads and algorithms around what Google and Facebook and others provide them. Does this really benefit consumers? I'll give you the last word, Dr. Morton.
Or just paying for access to those consumers.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.